Hello, everybody. Welcome to Nature's People. Thank you for tuning in. In today's video, I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is why are most African American mothers single? So, first and foremost, what I have to specify and say is that not all African American mothers are single, but there's a survey that was done in most states that are majorly comprised of African American people. They found that there's a high tendency of divorces among the families, and the rates of long-term relationships tend to be sort of not stable and tend to break apart over the passage of time, which is conversely different as compared to other races, as Hispanic Americans or white Americans or Asian Americans. We are having very cohesive families of Asian Americans at 70%. So the divorce rate among the Asian Americans is just 30%. And then, we have lower as we go, like whites, 55%, and then Hispanics, 46%, and in blacks, just 20% families stay together over the course of time. That doesn't have nothing to do with divorce, but because most couples that get together among the African Americans community don't actually get married, and a lot of you guys can really relate on what really marriage has to do with a solid and stable family across the board. Because in Western countries, marriage, it's coupled with commitment and share of resources. And once that break apart, that bond breaks apart, we see a high stress on the man. The toll goes on the man to cover up on the resources, and all the resources that a man generally has a tendency of building them up has to be shifted or shuttled to the wife, the woman and kids. Now, getting really deep and dive more into the facts of African American women being single, I have to say something. Well, being a person who has traveled all around the world, and I've personally been in Africa and lived in Africa, one of the things I can tell, most African American ways of engaging as far as dating, having a relationship, staying out together, really resemble the relationship pathways or structures of African people. However, I have to say this: there is a very high degree of independence in the African American woman, mostly because America is the most powerful and the wealthiest nation in the world. Being a wealthiest nation in the world, you mean there's a very high convenience as far as going out there and being able to break down the system and acquiring resources, financial resources, getting a house, getting a degree. I mean, it's all about a will. If you're willing to do something in America, regardless of your race, sex, or gender, you are able to make it through. However, that's different from Africa, because in Africa, men really have to struggle. Men, it's not a masculine, or it's not a nation that prioritizes masculine or feminism, and none of that, of anything of that sort. What happens in Africa is like only really men, the strongest men, are the ones who are able to break up the system, make it through and get the resources. And when a man gets resources, the man is very powerful, and especially African man, because there's this high tendency of African men being dominant. That's why if you go deeper into African societies, you realize that over generational pathways and structures, African men have a tendency of getting more wives for themselves. So you see a society where a man has 3 wives, a man has 4 wives. Why is that? Because of the dominance. That's why the tendency of genes, the process of genes in Africa is quite slightly different from other parts of the world, because in the world people tend to have a tendency of prioritizing, the man that is, it's there for the woman over the long run, regardless whether he's masculine and provides resources or not. Whereas in Africa, it's the man who is having the total power and controls the woman, the most woman as he can, and he passes down the gene. So that's the structure. Anyways, getting right deeper on how that influences the way people are having relationships, especially in states such as North Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Mississippi, Minnesota, Georgia, Florida, states with a high density of Black Americans. We see very dissolved families. Why is that? It's because of the main things, the basic things I've explained prior, a couple of seconds ago, that because in the US, the tendency of being together, it is more of a desire and willingness of both parties to come together. However, that tends to break apart because in the basic norms of it all, there's a very high degree of tolerance whenever a man commits to a woman. Those of you guys who are married and stay together, have a couple, know this, because people have differences regardless of sex and races, and people are not exactly the same. And because of that, there'll be times where there'll be differences in thought processes, and that results in turmoil, disagreement, and problems. And in African American women, there seems to be a very, very low level of tolerance for the man. Why is that? I don't really know, whether it's because most African American men are not pro wealth construction. I'm not saying not all African Americans don't chase wealth and don't chase status, but the general public are just are on the middle class, and women really value that, and seems like there isn't much motive or motivation, or sort of, I would rather say, incentive for the people who are behind that, talking more specifically about the African American woman, to really stick around our partner. And what that has is that it has a cascade of effects over a long run, wherein we see couples, arguing, having kids, and then these kids will grow with a single mother, and then that becomes generational. But one interesting thing, though, is that if you look at the stats of the African American population, we talk about, say, 1900s or even the 1800s, when the 13 colonies were formed, first one being the Delaware. You see that it has, as the US was bringing immigrants from the old continent, more specifically the UK, Northern Ireland, the Wales and Scotland and whatnot, the migrants that were coming from Africa, from West Africa, mostly the Ashani tribe, had a tendency of coming and settling at the same rate that is today. So we're talking about a 9%. The share of the population in the US in Black has been growing ever since. So the population has been growing non-stop from the 1980s till now, from 1800s till now. So that's an impressive thing. Though families are not cohesive, though kids are being raised by single mothers, the population still grows and it still thrives. And we had a population growth, African Americans, I think 50 years ago, were half of now, maybe around 20 something million, and now it's It's 40 something million heading to 50 million. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. My videos are growing. Please share, like, and subscribe. See you in the next one, and bye for now.